Hey fam, what's good? It's good. I hope that you're all well and keeping safe. Welcome back to another one. Welcome back to another one. In the comment section, let me know how was your week of trading. Was it a good one? Was it a bad one? Did you find yourself looking for some beautiful longs? Were you looking for some beautiful shorts? Right? I stuck with my analysis. You know what? We were looking for some beautiful longs. We found ourselves having two beautiful opportunities, right? The first one basically got stopped out. The second one still running in some profits. So we are humbly waiting and see, what will the outcome be of that actual trade, right? I will share it with you later on in the content. So, I'd make sure to tune in, right? Or stay tuned at least. Now, before we're gonna start off our breakdown, right, let's look at investing.com. Guys, listen, it is super important for you guys to always find yourself going on investing.com or any other platform you are using, just to make sure that you are up to date with the news events that is finding itself coming through during the week. All right. So for this coming week, we have some news coming through on Monday, Wednesday, and then on Thursday, right? So throughout this week, we used to find ourselves being so excited for the FOMC meeting to find itself coming through, right? Because this is simply where the stock market just will go crazy, right? I'm talking about like 200 put moves like in literally 1 minute, right? But as of now, I'm not too concerned about the FOMC that more, as we have seen for the past couple of months that there hasn't been really that much of impact, really much volatility coming through within the market, right? So I am not too excited for this as well. However, in the back of my mind, I can't downplay the FOMC, right? We can't just all of a sudden just move like 500 pips this coming week, right? So, but at the end of the day, just be cautious of these events finding themselves coming through. So on Monday, will we be clear? Yes or no? Yes, we will find ourselves being clear, as we only have some news events coming through at 2:30, right? The reason to why I'm basically saying will we be clear is simply because our trading hours is normally during the New York Open, right? Which will be 3:30 South African time, right? So these news events, they are finding themselves coming through, before the time. On Tuesday, we are totally clean. On Wednesday, we will find ourselves having to be a little bit cautious, as we do have some fundamentals coming through with the New York Open as well, right? Crude oil inventories. So we have to be a little bit cautious right over there. Right, we might have somewhat of slow momentum, range bound momentum, right, until we get a clear, bullish momentum or bearish momentum after after the FOMC meetings has been finalized, right? On that was on Wednesday. On Thursday, will we be clear? Yes, we will be clear, right? But we also have to be a little bit cautious, as we do have some news events coming through at 4 o'clock as well, right? Some existing home sales. I do expect some volatility to come through at 4 o'clock on Thursday, right? And then on Friday, we are clear. Now on Fridays, I don't really find myself prioritizing the charts, right? Simply because it's a Friday, right? Especially if you are finding yourself having a good week, right? You don't want to find yourself stressing about wanting to enter another trade, right? Because who of you in the comment section, let me know, who of you had a beautiful week, right? And then on a Friday you find yourself taking a loss, right? And then your whole weekend is just like, why did I find myself even taking that? Right? Why did I take the trade? Right? Who have found themselves going through something like that? Right now, previously I used to find myself doing that, right? And I was just like, on a Friday, I'm just gonna take it easy. I'm just gonna chill. Whatever happens, happens. Right? From not in front of my desktop, then I am not finding myself being in front of the charts. Right now, let's look at something interesting as well. All right, yeah. So what we are looking at is the COT report data, right? This is something that you can find yourself doing on your side as well, right? All you can find yourself doing is you can even simply find yourself looking at the raw data if you want to, right? But me, Diego, I want to see somewhat of a visualized graph or something, which I can just find myself having a easier judgment, I want to say, right? So we are looking at our non-commercials, right? when it comes down to the NASDAQ and then the DXY, the total will basically be the net positions of contracts, right? Longs and shorts all combined for the NASDAQ and the actual, the DXY. Now, a few weeks ago, like 2 weeks ago, I was quite confident within our actual longs, right? Because as we can see, we had somewhat of a decline when it comes down to our to our longs, and then we had a steady increase with our longs right over there as well, right? Looking at the shorts as well, we can see that we went from 47% all the way back down to 40, let's say 41%, right? So this simply means our shorts found themselves taking off quite significant amount of contracts off the table, right? And our longs find themselves adding some contracts to the table, right? So basically saying our longs should find itself, stepping in and have somewhat of an actual pushback towards the upside. Did we find ourselves seeing that? No, we actually saw the market going down, right? And this is simply because of a meeting that some outlet had with Trump, right? And the response that Trump basically gave a little bit of fear, and investors found themselves taking out some monies when it comes down to the stock market, right? And our big 7 companies, Microsoft, the Teslas, the Apple, those companies found themselves having some significant losses as well. You'll see that they had a big dip, and if those companies have a big dip, right, you guys know the NASDAQ will also find itself following, right, as those are the companies that is responsible for around about like 50% of the momentum when it comes down to the actual NASDAQ, right? And investors didn't find themselves liking that. We had like literally a 1.7 plus trillion dollar loss, right, or drop whatsoever when it comes down to the market, and this is on the NASDAQ, right, on the NASDAQ. And that is why we basically didn't see these longs finding themselves coming through. But you know what, now we can slowly see that we are having somewhat of an actual increase in our long. So me, Diego, I will stick with my long bias when it comes down to the NASDAQ. All right, I'm going to stick with my long bias as it comes down to the NASDAQ. And before we're going to tap into the charts, you know what? I just wanted to find myself pointing this out to you. So now let's have a little bit of a look of what is happening, right? So if we can compare to what happened over the course of last week to this week, we can see that we are having somewhat of an actual increase when it comes down to our longs, right? And when it comes down to our shorts, we can see that we have somewhat of an actual decrease, right? We have a beautiful decrease when it comes down to our shorts. So what does this mean, D? What are you talking about, right? So all I'm basically saying is that, you know what, short contracts has been taken off the table and long contracts has been added to the table, right? So who's in control, the longs or the shorts? The longs, right? Why, D? Simply because we have what? We have more longs on the table than we have shorts, right? Now, once again, I don't want you guys to be like, oh, okay, we're just going to look at this and this is just the answer for everything, right? No, no. You still need to find yourself, this is like an indicator, like I made mention previously, right? There is somewhat of a delay in it as well, right? But how you can use this is for long-term projections, right? Weekly projections, even monthly projections, depending on what the market is presenting to you, right? So this is more for swing traders, having that actual overall direction on what can potentially find itself happening within the market, and all you're gonna find yourself doing is just stick with that one direction and move with that one direction. All right, so that's it when it comes down to the NASDAQ. Let's see what's happening on the DXY, right? Now, on the DXY, something interesting is also happening over here now. One thing you need to take into consideration, if I can put it like that, when it comes down to the DXY, where do you want to see the DXY heading to? Do you want to see the DXY go up or down, right? If you want to see the NASDAQ going up, you actually want to see the DXY going down, right? But if we're gonna look at the readings, right, on what we are having over here, we can see that we are still having somewhat of an actual increase when it comes down to our long contracts, right? And over here, we can see that we are having somewhat of a decrease when it comes down to our short contracts. So what does that mean? This simply means that, you know what, there is still a possibility that, you know what, some longs can be pushed within the market when it comes down to the DXY. And if we are going to remain bullish on the DXY, right, this simply means that there is still that possibility of the NASDAQ having somewhat of a shift back towards the downside, right? But now one thing you need to take into consideration is that both of these instruments has been finding themselves dumping towards the downside, right? So it's perfectly fine. I'm looking at this on the DXY as somewhat of a correction that is finding itself happening, right? So both of them may find themselves having some positive numbers coming through, but in overall, you know what, we are still bearish on the DXY, and we need somewhat of an actual shift back towards the downside so that we can see the longs finding itself opening up on the NASDAQ, right? Many people may be like, nah, D, you know, hey, you crazy, bro. How can you even believe in that, right? How can you even say that we are bullish on the NASDAQ, right? But it's perfectly fine, right? It's perfectly fine. We follow our own directional bias. We follow our own you know what, analysis, right? So here we can see for the week of the 11th, right? This is the newest data, or the latest data. And over here we can basically see that, you know what, our longs, they are finding themselves being in control. If we are going to look at the previous at the previous week of data release, right? So our bulls still in control. This basically just reflects on what's happening up here. All right, here we can also see that our bulls, they are still somewhat in control when it comes down to the DXY as well, right? So hey, we have some weird projections coming through, right? But at the end of the day, make sure that you are on your technicals and you are finding yourself doing what is necessary, right? And that is following your methodology. That's it. All right, so now let's step into the charts. All right, so looking at the NASDAQ, right, on the weekly time frame, my analysis is exactly the exact same thing, right? So if you want a more in-depth detailed analysis, right, please make sure to go find yourself watching our previous video, all right, last week's content. Now on the NASDAQ, as we basically boxed out, our main focus, or my main focus for the NASDAQ, is this down close candle we have found ourselves creating right over there, right? So I just want to see the NASDAQ come all the way back up, back into this area right over there. If I can maybe just do the following and just box it out as, you know what, my target. If I can just put it as target, just like that, right? So that is basically the target to where I want to see the NASDAQ have somewhat of an actual push back into, right? I'm not saying that, hey, from this area we are gonna have a further continuation towards the upside. Hey, from this area we are gonna have a bullish momentum back towards the downside. No, right? I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is that this is the target to where I would like to see the NASDAQ find itself heading back into, right? Once we get there, we try to figure out what can potentially happen next. That's it, right? We take it week by week, we take it day by day, and that is just simply how I'm finding myself maneuvering when it comes down to the charts. Okay, so let's go to our daily time frame, right, and just zoom out a little bit. Now on the daily time frame, we basically find ourselves boxing out this area as our point of interest to where we would love to see the NASDAQ find itself coming back into if we are finding ourselves having that further continuation move back towards the downside, right? And we can basically see that we are finding ourselves being within that region, right? We are finding ourselves being within that region. You know what, even if we can just find ourselves looking at traditional, you know what, support and resistance, we can see that we are finding ourselves tapping within a quite crucial area of support, right? We can see that we had multiple respects at this area right over there, and now currently we are holding this area. And just for the simple sake that we are finding ourselves holding this area quite clean, right? I am quite confident in saying that, hey, there is that possibility of us then having that actual shift back towards the upside, right? Now, on the daily time frame, for me to be 110% confident in us basically having that actual shift towards the upside, I would love to see us have somewhat of an actual closure above this high right over there, right? Above the high of this up close candle right over there, because then we would simply find ourselves creating a beautiful area of demand, right? And this simply means that then we can potentially see that shift back towards the upside, right? So all I'm basically saying is I want to see a change in structure, and to me that right there will be a clear indication that we are having a change in market structure from a nice beautiful bear market back into a bull market. And once again, the ideology, the logic behind it remains the same. We are finding ourselves doing what? Creating lower lows, right? And if we are finding ourselves doing lower lows, what do we need? We need somewhat of an actual pullback, right? And if we can see the pullback finding itself occurring, right, you would be like, D, okay, so then we are still bearish, because then we need to have the actual further impulsive move back towards the downside. But I actually do have a different outlook when it comes down to that, right? Because then what I'm seeing is that we are creating an area of what? An area of supply for us to basically tap back into it, and then from this area onwards we may then see that further continuation move back towards the upside, right? And I will find myself making it much clearer on our H4 time frame. Okay, so looking at our H4 time frame, same thing, right? I'm gonna keep it the exact same way, because the moment we're going to find ourselves having that closure above, we are then having a market structure shift, right? So basically just saying we're shifting the market structure from this bear market into a bull market for a further potential continuation move back towards the upside, right? We can see that this low has been violated right over there as well. So all we need to see is somewhat of an actual high being violated, which will be this area right over there, enable for us to say that we are having somewhat of a change in market structure, so that we can have that shift back towards the upside, right? And looking at the data we have found ourselves, or the price action we have found ourselves having throughout last week, we can clearly see that we are still having somewhat of a gap above price as well, right? So a clear area to which I will have my eye out on will basically be this high right over there, because this high is simply where we have found ourselves, you know what, forming the gap. So if we are filling up this area, the gap is filled as well. And what do we know about gaps? We do know that, you know what, if we are creating a gap, we need to find ourselves filling it up, right? So my cautious target, if I can put it like that, will basically be this gap right over there. And as you guys know, I'm still having my eye out on these highs right over there as well. As you guys can see, those, well, these equal highs, they are perfectly lining up as well. So I am, you know, I want to see us having that actual shift back towards the upside, right? Me, Diego, I am still bullish when it comes down to the NASDAQ. Right now, I had a few projections. If I maybe can just point this out to you. Now, this was basically my longs I had in mind, right? Now, the exact same thing, guys. Listen, look at this. Look at this, right? The exact same thing. This is on an H2 time frame. Can you see that we took out a low? Boom, right there. Can you see that we took out the high? Boom, right there, right? And the only reason to why I had my entry around about this area is simply because we had a BOB lining up as well, right? And then from that BOB, we had a beautiful reaction, right? Right there, we had a beautiful shift within the area, and we had a beautiful push back towards the upside from that BOB. Right now, that is basically what I mean when I say, you know what, you wait for a point of interest to get tapped into, you wait for somewhat of an actual change in structure, and then only you enter your trade, right? And then we had a beautiful shift towards the upside from that BOB. However, price did find itself coming all the way back down, and you know what, found itself taking me out right over here as I had a runner in, right? A runner is like a foot soldier, right? My foot soldier got demolished once we found ourselves coming all the way back down. Did I find myself stressing about it? No, I didn't, right? Because I simply found myself having another entry. Check this out, right? So this was basically the outlook. Once we have found ourselves coming all the way back down, all I wanted to see was price come all the way back down, back into this area, and you know what, have somewhat of an actual shift back towards the upside, right? And this was basically what found itself happening, right? If I can show you guys. All right, so let me show you guys, right? The exact same thing, guys. Like literally is the same thing over and over and over and over again, right? So right over here, this was basically the fake out I found myself referring to. So we basically tap within the actual fake out, right? If I can maybe go on a 5 minute, because this was where it was at on the 5 minute, right? What we find ourselves doing, we tapped into it. Can you see low violated? Can you see high violated? BOB was left behind, and there we found ourselves coming back into it, and this is where I found myself having a re-entry, right? And we are still finding ourselves running this trade, right? And the exact same thing happened over here as well. If I maybe can point it out to you guys, check this out. The exact same thing. And I found myself creating a nice little a playlist for you guys to find yourself watching on my YouTube channel, right? And this playlist will simply just be my entries, right? How I'm finding myself entering the market. So check this out. Same thing found itself happening over here with the first entry. D, why did you want it to go long from this area? Same thing, right? Just on a higher time frame. Can you guys see high violated, low violated? Can you see that we had a change in market structure from bull to bear? Well, from bear to bull, right? All we had to find ourselves doing is go see if there is any, you know what, magnets whatsoever, untested areas to where we can go long from, right? There we can see a BOB has been left behind in a what? In a discounted area. So from this low to that high, right? We came all the way back down, tap within our actual BOB, and there we find ourselves then having that actual shift back towards the upside, right? My entry was up here once we had the rejection. All right, so the ideology is basically wait for price to tap within a point of interest, wait for price on a lower time frame to change market structure, right, from bull to bear, from bear to bull, whatsoever. Make sure that it is within a premium area or a discounted area, right? And then you find yourself executing your PA, right? Your price action. So to me, I just found myself removing everything. So for me, over the course of this week, will then just simply be the following. Still beautiful bulls that I will have my eye out on, right? So all I basically want to see price do is take out those highs, have that market structure shift, then you guys can find yourself grabbing your actual Fibonacci, right, from the low to wherever the high is going to be, where we will find ourselves creating it, right? Or if we will find ourselves creating it, or you simply want to see price do is come from that actual premium area back into somewhat of a discounted area, and then you want to find yourself looking for some potential longs back towards the upside, right? So that is still my outlook when it comes down to the NASDAQ. I still want to see some beautiful long opportunities, as we can see that we are still holding our point of interest, which we find ourselves having, right? If I maybe can just do it like this, like that, right, on our actual daily time frame. So I would still like to see somewhat of an actual shift back towards the upside. And guys, listen, you know what, we are doing an analysis on a higher time frame market, right, on a daily, weekly and monthly time frame. If you are gonna rewatch my content, right, and those areas which I found myself boxing out, we did find ourselves having a reaction from those areas, all of them, right? And if you have really found yourself just waiting for price to tap within those areas, you would have found yourself making 200 plus pips from those areas. Let me put it like 100 pips, right? But definitely 200 plus pips from those areas if you have found yourself doing the right thing. Wait, be patient, right? Me and the guys, we found ourselves literally having that conversation. You know what, me, Diego, I was just looking for some longs throughout this week. You know, they were going crazy. You know, they were going long, they were going short and everything, right? And I was just like, nah, keep it easy. You know what, I'm just going to look for those longs because I don't want to cloud my decision, right? By looking for some longs and then I waste, well, looking for some shorts, right? And then I waste the opportunity of finding that actual long momentum back towards the upside, right? So I would rather just want to sit on my hands, wait for price to find itself, you know what, having that longs coming through, right? So what I want you guys to find yourself doing is simply just do some back testing, right? Go to my previous content, find yourself watching the playlist I found myself making for each and every single one of you, right? It's named most recent. I will find myself, you know, renaming it on a later stage, right? But find yourself watching this content, right? Watch this content, guys. Listen, we want to push this channel to at least 700 subscribers, so make sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe button. If you have found yourself taking away something from this content, you know what, drop it in the comment section as well, right? So please make sure to go watch these contents right over here, right? As you will see how I am finding myself approaching the charts and you know what, navigating the charts based off my methodology, right? Especially like these live trade sessions over here. You know what, it is literally, it's not cut, nothing like that. It's not something that, you know what, the trade find itself happening and then I only came afterwards to show to you guys. No, it literally happens in real time, right? So make sure to go check it out. You will highly enjoy it. You will definitely take away something from it as well, right? But that is it from me, your boy D. I'm gonna see y'all in the next one. Traders, have a beautiful week ahead. Make sure to use risk management within your trading. Be responsible, right? Don't make irrational decisions. You know, don't move based off your emotions, right? Make calculated decisions at all time. All right, much love from me, your boy D. I'm gonna see y'all in the next one. I'm out.